I'll be honest, I'm not really a fan of taking convertibles out in the summertime. The sun beating on the top of your head, the heat is too much. I'm very much a roof up, aircon on kind of person in midsummer. But come this time of year, early autumn, when the sun's out, the sky's blue, the birds are tweeting in the trees, what is nicer than taking out a classic convertible like this in the countryside for a drive? Not much really. So this is a 1990 Peugeot 205 CJ Cabriolet. Quite nice, isn't it? Work began on the 205 in 1978 under Project M25. It was designed to slot in between the tiny Peugeot 104 and the mid-range 305. It went on sale in 1983 and ran until 1998. In fact, it was Car Magazine's Car of the Decade in 1990, and in 1984 was What Car's Car of the Year. It was beaten in 1983 by the Fiat Uno. Now, in the 80s, as in decades previous for generations before, convertibles were popular all across the world and especially in Europe. Volkswagen, Ford, Fiat, everyone had a convertible in the range, and Peugeot wanted some of that. In 1986, the roof came off and that ran until 1994. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but I'm being audio bombed by a Spitfire, which is just flying over, which is, of all the things to make an intrusion into my video, quite a nice thing actually. Anyway. It's too far away to get on the camera, it's a wide lens. Sorry. There's a bit of a misconception that the 205 was designed by Pininfarina. That's sort of half true because the original 205 hatch was designed in-house by Peugeot's own design team. Gerard Welter, who'd been with Peugeot for years and stayed with them for decades as well, was responsible for some of their real greats like the 406 Coupe and the 306 I think he designed as well, did the exterior, and Paul Brack did the interior. Now Paul Brack, you all might know his name from Mercedes and BMW. He was a real heavyweight of the design world, quite an influential character. So yeah, they did the internal and external design of what became an iconic looking car. In fact, this face went on to influence the next generation or two of cars. Look at the 306 in 1993, 10 years later, the 405, everything really that followed up until kind of the end of the millennium follows this design style. This radiator grille, these lights, this set the pattern. Anyway, I'm digressing here. The grain of truth in that Pininfarina myth is that the convertible, or the cabriolet, was restyled by Pininfarina and was partially built in-house in Italy and then moved back to France for completion. As roof conversions go, it's actually not bad. They've managed to follow the lines fairly well, kept the rear glass looking fairly standard, as close to the original shape as possible, and so the roof line, when it's up, isn't too badly affected, and when it's down, it's got a bit of a rump on it, but it doesn't look too bad, and thankfully you do have a nice solid rollover hoop. Well, climbing inside the car slightly sooner than planned. That autumnal wind is playing merry hell with my microphone and I'm having to wait forever in between gusts. Right, let's look at this interior. Not a lot changes between the model range of the 205. You still have this really cool, very race inspired or rally inspired looking steering wheel right in front of you, front and center. You've got this thing, it looks like it's straight out of a GTI. Feels kind of rubbery, although I can't remember what a GTI wheel feels like. I'm sure someone will tell me. It's kind of rubbery, firm rubbery to touch on the rim and a bit more squishy on the spokes and centre, and the line itself is quite hard plastic, so don't go nutting that if you crash. The wheel doesn't adjust for tilt or for distance from you, so you've got to be hoping you're the right shape for the car, and luckily I'm about right, and it gives me a relatively clear view of the instrument panel. I do lose these two little top right hand corners of lights. There's not a huge amount of information going on. You've got a very big clock in place of a tacho or temperature gauge or anything handy like that. Semicircular speedometer going on there, and a big fuel gauge, and then just a few warning lights. Unlike some cars which have like a black plastic panel or a dark glass panel and only illuminate and tell you what's behind it when there's an issue, this is all in white ink front and center, so I can see two symbols on the same light at the left, which is a kind of the handbrake symbol, the exclamation mark in a circle, and a P in a circle, which is basically the same thing, so I suppose it's a warning for brake fluid and for handbrake. A temperature warning for hot or cold, I imagine. It's just like a thermometer. Stop! I'm not quite sure when stop comes on. That's the biggest one in the centre. I guess that might be check engine perhaps. Oil, maybe oil low, battery ignition charging warning, and indicators. That's kind of all you've got there. But I do find it amusing that it's all there for you to see. It's only when there's a problem that it lights up from behind. Oh, there's one more light. There's a large square below the fuel gauge, which will be the low fuel warning light. So we're not overburdened with things to look at and be warned about. doing our usual right to left across the dashboard, we've got our vents. We have just four adjustable vents and 2 windscreen vents up there, so we've got relatively good ventilation. No air conditioning, obviously it's a 1990 car and it's based on a far older vehicle, so aircon not going to happen. We do have the regular direction, fan speed, temperature, as standard, just below those ones there, and just below the dial cluster. I'm sort of curious to see this on a 1990 car. We've got a manual choke. Which is, I would have thought it'd be an auto choke by this point in the car's life, but no, they've kept this carryover going on this engine. In the centre, we are not, again, overburdened with things to look at. We've only got three of these very, very 1980s looking round kind of drum-shaped buttons. We've got the hazard warning lights, rear fogs, and one blanked off one. It's still got the button indentation texture, but no symbol, and it doesn't actually move when you push it. There's room for another 2 to the left of that, so I don't know if perhaps other models might get an even bigger range of things to push. I don't know. We have a large ashtray and lighter kind of little pull-out thing here, handy for your sweet wrappers and your sat-nav. Very big blanked off plate here. That could have had something on it. And the original Clarion radio cassette, which worked lovely as well. It's Peugeot branded as well, Clarion radio. In terms of cubbies and storage, we've got these rear set on the door little kind of bins on both sides, which are not a bad size. You probably fit a few bits and bobs in there. Little cubby down by the gear shift, which is good for coins and things, but too small for a sort of modern mobile phone or much else really. There's a weird triangular shaped panel here which looks like it should open or have something, but it doesn't do anything at all. It's just hard plastic and doesn't do anything, so I don't know what that one might be on maybe on other models. And finally, the T-shelf is frankly abysmal. Of all the non-airbag cars I've driven, this is possibly the worst. It's about a kind of half a finger depth little trough, like a V-shaped trough with I guess you could fit some pens or something, but as far as putting a cup of tea in there, you have to pour it in and drink it out with a straw. Very disappointing, Paul Brack. I had higher hopes from a man of your calibre. And below that, obviously, we have actually a weirdly small glove box. Actually, it's got a bit of paper with a radio code in it, and not really a lot of room. It's about a hand width wide. Although the cover is this wide, the actual area you can put stuff into is only half the width of the bin, so that's not the most practical of glove boxes. And we've got standard Peugeot rubberized instrument stalks, wipers on the right, indicator, little poopy horn on the left, and lights, of course. And they kind of click with a rubbery little twang into place. And this car apparently only has 9,000 miles on it, so everything feels really factory fresh as well. These seats are kind of cool. They've got kind of like a denim look to them, with this kind of multicoloured stitching going on as well. It's very, very late 80s, early 90s. It's, the kind of thing that would cameo in Saved by the Bell. They're actually rather comfortable as well. Not bad support and headrests as well, so that's good. Let's have a look in the back. Now, to get into the back of the car, there's a little lever on the floor which is actually too tight to get your fingers underneath, so it's quite tricky. Lift it up and the entire seat kind of lurches forward like that. Climbing in the back, there are 2 obstacles to be aware of. First of all is the radio aerial, and second of all is this rollover hoop. And once you're in, the seat is relatively comfortable. It's quite wide, but when you sit back, the front of the hood frame, when it's folded down, really, really intrudes into your shoulder space. So you are pushed up tight against the edge of the hood. So that's marks off for rear seat comfort there. However, you do have a nice solid metal hoop there, so if there is a rollover incident, you're at least fairly well protected. The rear bench seat itself is split into 2. It's split down the centre and actually folds up to give you more space when you fold the back seat down into the boot area. And it only has 2 lap belts rather than 3-point shoulder belt harnesses for rear seat passengers. You have wind down windows here, so you can get a bit of ventilation or get the car looking a bit more cooler if you're driving with the roof off. For a convertible, the boot's actually not a bad size. It's got a nice big flat floor, goes down quite a way, and has good echo. Also, the seats fold down 50-50. Which is quite useful, just by pulling this little lever here. I'll talk more about this boot in a second, because that's got more to do with the suspension on the road. There's nothing underneath the boot floor here, because the full-size spare wheel, which it does come with, is underslung and easily accessible to thieves. I'm not sure that was the point they were going for. Now, there were two versions of this car, the CJ and the CTi, which apparently stood for Cabrio Junior and Convertible or Cabriolet TI, as in Turismo Internazionale. Now, by the time this car came out in 1990, the GTI phenomena was in full swing, and it wasn't long before the GTI death was very nearly upon us because insurance premiums were starting to kill the GTI. However, in a convertible like this, you don't necessarily need that much power because you've cut the roof off. You're going to get a little bit of scuttle, shake, a bit of wobble in the car. You may as well go for the more relaxed cruiser anyway. And in this case, the CJ, which was a great seller because it combined the 205's fantastic looks and most of its really good handling with a nice spacious interior. When the 205 launched, it came fitted with the old X series Durin, forgive my pronunciation, suitcase engine from the 104, but pretty soon it was replaced with the XU and the TU series engines. By the time this car came out, it had the TU3M series engine. So that normally aspirated carbureted TU engine gives 74 horsepower and 81 foot-pound of torque. And it actually feels more sprightly than that sounds. 0 to 60 is 11.4, and it'll ultimately reach 106 miles an hour. I'll tell you what, being out in the country lanes today in a car like this is fantastic. It's kind of magical. You just want a picnic and not to have to go back and do any actual work today, because this really doesn't count as actual work, does it? And the weather is just perfect for me. Not too warm, a bit of sun and blue sky. I'm going to say the heater in this car is phenomenal. It's not even set up that high, but it's just pumping out a massive heat, so I'm toasty warm. Taking my jumper off now. The visibility and sense of airiness with the roof down is just incredible. This big sort of window glass area is great anyway on the 205, so you've got this huge glazed area around you, but then with the roof off, you're just in the countryside. You're with the birds and the whatever else, cows and corn apparently. You do have the reassurance of this rollover hoop above you, although my head does barely come any lower than it. You do feel you're sitting quite high on these seats. There's no adjustment to go down on them, only forward and back rake. And I know that the crash structure of a 205 isn't something you want to make too much of a big deal about, even on a hard top. So in a convertible, I think your best course of action is to avoid crashing, frankly. Yeah, that'd be your safest bet. But you call it a passive safety measure because you can see out so well and the car handles so brilliantly. You can probably avoid most incidents in the first place. You know, you're probably not going to crash the car because it's, you've got the ability to drive around an accident rather than survive it. And if you are driving a cherished classic or young timer like this, chances are you'll be paying more attention anyway. It's a really interesting engine note as well, that kind of slightly hollow echoey sound, very French. You really hear it through the villages and you're echoing off the walls around you. Now the thing that the 205 is really remembered for is its ability on a B road. The GTI is still the king of the GTIs, and not without good reason. Even with the roof locked off, this still has a great chassis and it's huge fun. And it feels really composed, really competent, really able. It's actually quite light considering there's no power assistance in the steering. There's a bit of obviously brake assistance, but beyond that you are very much on your own, as always in a car of this decade, or this era. But the steering does feel lovely and direct, not too many turns lock to lock, and the brakes, discs at the front, drums at the rear, they're not overwhelming, but they stop the car well enough. But that handling is just phenomenal. With McPherson struts at the front and a torsion beam at the rear, which is like the standard PSA French layout for the 80s and the 90s. I don't know if they still do it now, actually, I should check. You get a very predictable, but yet quite involving handling. The car turns in nicely and grips well through the corners, and also gives the added bonus of giving a very flat boot floor, which is why for a convertible this has got such a nice big load space. It's actually debuted on the 305 estate, I believe, where they obviously wanted lots of luggage space in an estate car. When the 205 came out in '83, it was up against some stiff competition, because within a year of this thing's arrival, you had new competitors from the Metro, the Fiat Uno, Mark II Fiesta, Mark II Polo, Nissan Micra K10. There was a wash with that kind of supermini segment. I mean, the supermini was the car of the decade in the 80s. This is a great corner. I want to come back in a 205 GTI hardtop and do that bend. That's so much fun. Even the roof locked up in a 1.4 single tiny carburettor. It comes with a 5-speed gearbox as well. I think an automatic was an option, although with a manual as sweet as this, why would you want it? This just flicks from gear to gear. It's astonishingly light, and the clutch pedal itself also has no weight to it at all. You could more or less dab it with your little tippy toe and the pedal will go down. This car is for sale at Stone Cold Classics near Rootham in Kent. Check out their website because they've got some really cool stuff in. I'll just say this has been thoroughly gone through by the dealer, so I'm effectively driving a new car at the moment. It's got 9,000 miles on the clock, and they've just fitted brand new, decent quality tyres, done a full service, you name it really, everything that needed doing to refresh a car that was, you know, pushing 30 years old with no miles on it. And it is like driving a new car. It's fantastic. And being a CJ, this is not the highest trim in the world. It's got hubcaps rather than alloy wheels. Got a blanked off button here in the centre. But no electric windows, no aircon, manual roof. But that's not a bad thing. It keeps it light and it keeps it simple. It makes the car a lot of fun to use and to be in. I'm absolutely loving being in a little car with a choke that I can just, you know, nothing's going to go wrong. I don't feel like if it conks out on me, which I don't think it will, but if it did conk out on me, I would be stranded. I would feel like I could, you know, use a bit of baling twine and a hammer and get the thing going again, because it's that era of simplicity. I like this car a lot. It doesn't feel particularly heavy. It's only 830 kilograms apparently. So it's still, even with all the roof mechanism, a very, very light car indeed. And as you throw it through a corner, you can feel the not weight, if you like. You can feel the lightness, if such a thing is possible. Well, thank you for tuning in today. I hope you've enjoyed this little look at a really interesting, fun little convertible car from the end of the 80s, the beginning of the 90s, my kind of decade. I've loved this. I hope you've enjoyed it a fraction of as much as I have. Please hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. That really helps the channel. And tune in next time for more stuff, which I think might be looking at what I've been doing to the Tomcat. As you can see, it's been biting back and scratching with its claws. I'm going to take this car back now because those clouds are starting to turn dark, which is the problem of driving a convertible in the autumn. The weather can turn on you. See you next time. Thanks for watching.